Hi guys, I quickly wanted to share a tool with you, like a coaching tool I came up with a few weeks ago. And I really found it helpful in terms of getting more clarity about what's important to me, to know where my drive and my motivation are coming from. And because I find if I don't know these, then it's really hard to take strong action because I think I know what I want, but actually there might be something else and I haven't really acknowledged it. And then, yeah, my action is just not fully going towards the things I do want. And some people sometimes say, "What's your why?" You need to know your why. I think Simon Sinek is quite famous for it, but there's a lot of other people as well. And again, I agree. Just that, despite having done several exercises towards knowing my why, I never really found my why. And I also feel like it is something that changes, like your values and like what's important to you. But it's still good to know what's important to you right now, so that you can take action right now towards what's important to you. And then maybe in a few months or weeks or years you might want to check again, and then it might have shifted. But to me, again, it was really helpful to see what's important. And with this exercise I felt I got a lot closer, so something for me came up that I hadn't acknowledged before. And so ever since I slightly changed what I'm doing and how I'm taking action, and it feels much better, and it feels more freer. And I think eventually the results I'm going to see are, I'm going to get them quicker, or they're more positive, or it's definitely having a great impact on my life. So I will talk you through that in a moment, and I'm going to use examples from just everyday life, personal things. If you could use the same exercise for just a project or like a small business or something, then you of course have to slightly adapt it. I think it's gonna become clear once you see what the exercise is about. If you don't, but you do want to use it specifically for something, then maybe just get in touch with me, and I can talk you through that. And so if you could take a paper, so I have an A4 paper that I divided into 3 equal sections. Paper and pen. If you don't have an A4 or something, well, either stop the video right now and get something, or just use any paper, and it doesn't have to be next to each other. You could just write it underneath each other or something else. Just make it work for you. So the idea to this exercise came about while I was thinking about, so what actually is an indicator or a milestone to knowing that the things I want in my life and the things I'm working towards are actually coming true. So what one thing would need to happen right now for my life to really, really change in a big way, positively change in a big way, even if there will be a lot other things I do want as well. But like I said, the thing about what would be the biggest thing, what would have the biggest impact in my life right now, that is what I was thinking about. Because I do think if you focus on that one thing, I'm going to repeat that very often, one thing, and I know there's a book out there which is called The One Thing, which I haven't read yet and could assume it has similar ideas in it. But if you know that thing, like I said, everything else becomes much, much easier, because it naturally falls into place, other things, other areas of your life. At least that's how I've experienced it. So I was thinking about what is that thing for me right now, and in order to get there, I realized that there are things I think I know already they are important to me, but what about the stuff that I'm not that aware of? So in order to find out what else is there, I started with writing 10 things down that are really important to me. So in the first column, I labeled it 10 dream indicators. I wrote 10 things which all have the potential to have a massive, massive positive impact on my life. And that's what I would ask you to do now. I'm going to give you some examples, or just stop the video right now and write them down for yourself. If you already know, And you, like I said, you might already know what's important to you. Then that's great, and it's just really digging a bit deeper to see if there's anything else that you might have missed, or you actually don't know right now and you keep jumping between different areas and different ideas, in which case this could just give you more clarity. So like I said, things I wrote down or you could write down would be professional life, career, like changing a job or getting a pay rise or starting your own business. Or like business, I often find is similar to having creative projects, like, you know, you want to write a book or record an album or paint or have your pictures seen in a gallery, or maybe you want to campaign for something and start a campaign, or just learn a new skill like playing the piano or learning a language, or maybe how to cook or a new computer program. It could be something like you want to win the lottery, or you want someone to give you a lot of money. Or maybe just getting better with your finances. But if it's things like getting better with something or improving a relationship that you already have, I would say see if you can find something tangible, that so you can really, really kind of somehow see or have something physical as a confirmation that it's actually working. So with its finances, maybe you want a new savings or investments account, and you want to see the money going in there, or just change something with where your money is going every month. Or if it's a relationship you want to improve, then maybe find something like you want to speak to the person once a week on the phone, or maybe meet up if you're in the same city or same place, or you want to go on holiday with them. Or if it's a new person, of course, then you want to have this person materialize, no matter if it's a friend or a long lost family member or romantic relationship. Then you can, of course, just write down that. It might be something like a new home or like getting a pet. And health is another one I had, like maybe you have a condition that you want to improve, or like a chronic condition that you know you can't change much, but you could improve how you deal with it. Again, see what you can find in terms of tangible outcomes. Is it just you want to have less pain? Or maybe you have mobility issues and there's maybe something else, or you want to see how else you become, you know, take better part in everyday life despite having this issue. And it could be that. Yeah, so just keep thinking and writing them down. And maybe you find more than 10, that's great. But see that you get roughly 10, at least 8. And when you've done that, then we move on to the next column. So, like I said, I'm just going to continue. If you need more time, just pause the video. In the next column, I labeled it positives and gains. So now it's about what is actually positive, or what would be your gain if you would get this thing. If it is your pay rise, maybe it's obvious you would have more money, and then check in, what would that mean for you? It could be you feel more secure, or it would enable you to go on the holiday you always wanted, or maybe save up for your wedding, or, you know, put more in a retirement fund, or whatever you want to do with that money. It could be if it's a new business or like a creative project, maybe you feel more proud of yourself, or it gives you more freedom. You feel like you can express yourself better. Just really see if what emotions come up with all these different dream indicators. So I had things like more freedom, for example, in my professional life. I had that. Things like being proud of myself. I had a dog somewhere on my list, so I had like, oh, that would be fun and good company and a change in my life I very much would want. It could be something like I would feel more loved and accepted, maybe when you have the romantic relationship you want. Or for me also, like even with projects, I sometimes have that. Something that came up for me quite strongly was the health issue, because I have a chronic health issue, and I realized that if that could improve, I would feel more confident. And I even wrote down things like more accepted and a better sense of belonging, so that I really feel like I actually belong in this world, or I own my place. So of course that was quite strong as just an emotional thing that came up. So just notice that if you have anything like that that feels really, really strong, then that's possibly a keeper. Because I don't know if I said that, but it's just good for me. It really helped to get my brain thinking about what else do I want. Once I was through the whole exercise, and I narrowed it back down to the most important points, the most important goals. But in order to get there, it really, really helped me to kind of broaden my perspective first, and that's what we're doing right now. Just really think about, why is this important? What could it mean? What do I get from it? And again, like I said, it could be things that enable you to do something else, or it could just be something that, gives you something which you emotionally really, really want. I don't know if I had anything else, actually. Relief. I think I had relief in a few areas as well. So it could be something like you feel more peaceful or relaxed, or just like, oh, okay, I know it's working now. And just continue again until you have something for all your dream indicators. And then I'm going to move on to the last one in a moment. So in the third column, again, like I said, if you haven't finished with the second one, just pause the video. Now it's the opposite. It's like the negatives or the pains of your goal. So I find then whatever I want, no matter how positive it is, there's always almost something like a trade-off, like something like a downside. It's not always a super bad downside, but something I have to give, or which I will also get and I don't want. Or so what is actually negative about if you would actually get this thing that's so super exciting or nice or fun or peaceful or whatever it is that you actually wanted under positives? So I had things like, I think it had a creative project where I felt like it would make me feel really proud and give me, feel like I'm expressing myself better. But it also then under pains, I felt like, actually, this feels really effortful and I can't see myself actually doing the work at the moment. And it felt effortful. So, and still wouldn't really solve a lot of the other issues or problems that I have going on. I had some things with relationships where I was thinking, oh, do I want better relationships in that area? And then I felt like, well, actually, that would mean I possibly have to see the people more often or be in touch more, and it would mean a lot of reduced freedom. So, or like, adjust to certain people. And again, for me, it would mean reduced freedom. And it doesn't mean that you don't want to do that because of it. It's just becoming aware of how big or how strong is the payoff or the trade-off you have to give in order to get this thing. So, for example, with my dog, like I said, I really, really fancy a dog in several ways. But the downside would be it would be very time and money consuming, and it just really doesn't fit in with how my days are structured and my lifestyle at the moment. So I actually wrote down, it feels like a millstone around my neck if I would get a dog. So that was really clear to me at that point. Well, I think the time to get a dog is definitely not now. I had responsibility. I had a few things where I felt like, for example, getting a bigger place or a nicer home would come with more responsibility. And I was like, well, I don't really know if I want this responsibility right now. It's the same as taking on some certain projects, maybe with work. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's what I want right now. It reduced freedom again, more effort, learning a language I think I had, and again I was like, not now. again, with my health, even though I mentioned that I had really, really strong positive reasons to go for it, I think on the pain side I had, again, more responsibility, and I also had, it wouldn't give me as much excuse to hide. So that was an interesting one, of course. It's just a question like, is this something that keeps you from it, or is that something which maybe is just a bit uncomfortable, but it's actually doable, and actually the positives outweigh the negatives? And again, just see that you find something for all 10 or ever many goals and dreams you wrote down originally. You have something on the negative side as well. And of course, by doing this, you might already get a very strong feel about if certain things are really that important to you, or if they're not. And like I said, the whole exercise is about getting to one thing, ideally, by the end of it. So you could start already crossing some out, but that's kind of the next step I'm going to get to once you have something, positives and negatives for all your dreams and goals. So yeah, once you've done that, like I said, the last stage of this exercise is, of course, reducing your dream indicators down. So I did it classically by going from 10 to 5 and then to 3, and I think I even managed to go to 2 already, just by reading to the positives and negatives through the gains and the pains, and really checking in with myself how strong these different aspects are. And like I said, for me it was a health thing which had a really, really strong emotional component to it. Like as mentioned, it was very much about confidence, but really, really feeling I deserving my place in the world, and that was really strong. And on the pain side, as I just mentioned, it were things like, not being able to make as much excuses, or to having to take more responsibility, which of course meant like, hey, that's pretty much telling me I think I should do that, because it's nothing that freaks me out that much that I can't do it, but it's more means almost becoming an adult, or like an owner of this particular thing. And that's something I found very, very empowering myself, that no matter which area of my life, but if I feel like I'm actually taking responsibility and I'm actually stepping up to whatever it is, even if it's not, something nice, then it makes me feel more empowered, because at least I know, okay, now it's in my hands and I can do something or not do something with it. I make the decision about that. And that's something I try to do in all areas of my life as much as I can, that I just try, to be in charge, be the responsible person. So when I have having to take more responsibility on my pain side, then for me, and it might be something else for you, but for me, of course, that was quite an interesting thing to see, and to ask myself, well, is this actually true? Is this what's keeping you from it? And do you want that as a reason, or do you want to do it anyway? Whereas I had some others which, like I said, the dog one, for example, it was just like, yeah. And the ones that had effort there, I was like, no, there's just no reason to do that right now. And even if I had it, it wouldn't it wouldn't actually change my life as much as other things could. I think with money, I had, I had something like having a few 10,000s of pounds in my bank account, without not even any particular reason how they get there, just getting there. And I was like, well, it's nice, of course, and it would give me more freedom and all that. But on the downside, it was like, well, it's not really going to solve any bigger issues, and it would still leave me with a question of, what now, or how do I use my time I spend working professionally. So as much as it is nice if you would have, I don't know, even £100,000 in your account, but it's not really going to solve any of my bigger issues. So it's not that what's going to change my life. And yeah, like I said, so I managed to get to 2 just by going through these different gains and pains. And so, like I said, ideally you find one, and maybe it's already clear, then you can pretty much stop the video now. What happened for me though is actually I ended up with two. So I had the one that's always there for me, which has to do with my professional life and my career choices. And it feels almost a bit like an outside goal for me. So it's a bit like it also has to do with, my finances and how much money I'm gonna have, and again, how do I spend my time working towards something that's bigger than me, which is very important to me, like to do something meaningful. And so I knew that, and that also, of course, came up. But then I had this other one, which had to do with my health, and which I hadn't previously acknowledged as much. Um, this, like I already mentioned, it had these really strong feelings attached to it. So that's became my number two. That just in case, in terms of going back to the original question, what would impact my life most in the biggest way and most positively right now? I was like, oh my god, if I could improve that condition, the situation, it would completely change my life. So I knew this was really important. So, and I actually allowed myself to keep those two goals for myself, just because it felt like one, the health one, was almost more of an inside job, not because I can't take any outside action. I can, and I have done more so ever since it got into my focus by doing this exercise. But I know, because there's so much emotional entanglement going on, and it so feels, like I said, when the more I work towards it, the more I can feel free and the more empowered I feel. So you can notice even the way I speak about it, there's a lot of, freedom, like emotional freedom attached to it. Whereas the other one feels almost a bit more like a workhorse. It's a bit like, yeah, okay, I have to do it. I think I even wrote down on the pain side, it's a bit like, yeah, it's not exciting, it's not sexy, it's kind of the thing I have to do, but it's okay. And because it became okay, because I noticed how these two are actually also linked. So the more professional life, career goals, money, they of course provide me with resources, like I said, financial resources, but also maybe knowledge and people and things that I can then feed back into my other goal, which has to do with improving my health. Whereas that, as I mentioned, of course, the more I do with improving my health, it's going to make me feel better emotionally, and that then makes me feel lighter and feel I have more energy to carry out all the things I need to do for my other goals. So I really had this, that I felt like, actually, the more I think about it, they complement each other. And so I kept both of them. And whatever happened for you, if it's one, or if it's something like this situation, or you have two, then the last thing I would encourage you to do is, of course, to take action. I normally try to do something you can do today or this weekend, and then something you can do during this week, and then maybe something over the next few weeks, and do that in however many goals you still have. Like I say, if you have more than two, really ask yourself why you have more. So if there's not something, like in my case, where they almost complement each other, then I would say it possibly something is still not quite right, and you still might be missing something. So that's why I really try to get to one, or if it's two, see how they relate to each other. If it's more than that, maybe drop me a line or speak to me, and then we can have a look why you have more than two. But if it's one or two, then, like I said, take action. And so what, of course, you need to do is just to see during the next days if what came up for you during this exercise is actually really true. So when you take action, does it feel like the right thing to do? Does it feel like, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like it's really moving you and things forward? Or do you feel like, well, actually, it's still off, something still didn't really click, which could then be, again, a sign for you didn't actually find your right goal. But so for me, like I said, I've been working with it for a few weeks now, and so far it's been feeling like the right thing to do. I actually did the exercise again after like 6 weeks after I did it for the first time. And I don't know if I mentioned it at the beginning, but what was really interesting for me is like the first time I did it, I had like all these, different goals in different areas. Like I said, it was dog, a creative project, professional, life, money, relationships, home, so a lot of different areas. And the second time I did it, without intending to, it was already focused much more on around those two areas that came up the first time I did it, even though I hadn't intended to do that. And which was like a confirmation for me that they are actually really the ones I need to focus on at the moment. Yeah, so like I said, for me it definitely worked, and for you, as I said, just take action and see if it works for you, and how does it make you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel like motivated to do more, or is it not? And like I said, feel free to get in touch if it isn't. I'm happy to have a chat. Um, Otherwise, I wish you all the best with it, and hope you can take massive action and yeah, get some great results out of it, and you just really, really get closer to what's important to you, because the more we do, the more I do, it just makes me feel great, and I love it. So, well, thanks for listening, and good luck with everything, and I might speak to you soon. Bye.